I'm Sarah Wilson and you're listening to the Roots and All podcast. I'm here to help you get growing. Join me as I explore everything plant related both indoors and out and provide the information you need to create your perfect green environment. Welcome to a new year of the Roots and All podcast. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and a very happy new year to you. As you may have gathered by now, I'm keen to explore the idea of vegan gardening, so I'm celebrating Veganuary here on the podcast by dedicating the 3 January episodes to it. Vegan gardening is an important thing for me to talk about because it's what I know and it's where I can effect change. When I see people debating veganism, they often escalate the argument to a macro level and how veganism will affect farming if the whole world turns vegan. People on both sides of the argument will bandy around big numbers relating to how much land we need to grow enough plants for everyone to eat, how grass-fed meat is better for us and the planet, etc., etc. And the bottom line is we don't know what would happen if everyone turned vegan overnight, but it doesn't really matter because they won't. Any move away from eating meat will be a slow and gradual shift, giving everyone involved in food production ample time to adjust. And quite honestly, anybody who asked me how I propose to feed the world on a vegan diet is asking the wrong question because it's not my problem. I'm not a farmer. I'm a gardener. I grow plants in my home and in my garden, and I help other people grow plants in their homes and gardens, and this is my sphere of influence. If you're vegan or vegetarian, you probably won't want to use animal products in your garden. And if you're not, you may still not want to use animal products in your garden. I'm going to say something a bit controversial now that won't sit well with some hardline vegans probably, but I believe you can eat meat and still be concerned about animal welfare and be an animal lover. So you might choose meat products that come with the RSPCA Welfare Standard stamp of approval, and you wouldn't like to think that the products you put on your garden are the byproducts of intensively farmed chickens that are kept in horrific conditions, for instance. In an ideal world, I'd like to see us using no animal products anywhere, but this ain't an ideal world, and we need to make little changes and use as few animal products as possible where we don't need to be using them. And gardening is one of those areas where we definitely don't need to be using them. So if you're interested in gardening, you're probably already aware of Cleve West. Cleve is a garden designer who's been working for decades producing some of the most thoughtful and beautiful gardens to have graced both the public and private realms. He's probably best known for his 2011 book, Our Plot, which is a diary and memoir of the allotment he keeps with his partner Christine. And he also consistently produces top-class show gardens that have seen him win multiple medals and the coveted Best in Show award at the RHS Chelsea Flower Show 2 years on the bounce. I've seen him described as the quiet man of the gardening world, so if you're not aware of his work, it's probably because he's always minded his own business a little bit and got on with the job of honing his craft with little drama. Which is why he created a bit of a stir amongst his fans and the industry in general when he began posting pretty hard-hitting vegan messages on his social media accounts. Cleve's book, Our Plot, shows that gardening with a no-kill policy and with wildlife in mind has always been a determining factor in his gardening style, and I started by asking him about this. So I did read your book, and I thought what came through for me was that you've always gardened with an attitude that respects life and makes it difficult for you to kill things. Where do you think that came from?
I think that definitely came from my partner Christine. Her family are animal lovers and they taught me a lot about being more compassionate to things. So I had a sort of checkered childhood. I was a horrible little boy to insects and things like that. It fell into place at the same sort of time that I met Jeff Hamilton as well, and he was gardening organically. He saw my garden at the Hampton Court Flower Show and really liked it. Actually, after a dodgy start, because he came in saying, this isn't an organic garden. I labelled it as an organic garden. He said, this isn't organic. You've got tropical hardwood in your garden. And I said, no, it's not, Jeff. It's reclaimed elm. It's just been burnt to look like ebony or something. And he was so relieved. He said, oh, thank God for that. I was about to slate it. And he gave it a good report. But, his way of gardening up at Barnsdale, I used to watch Gardener's World avidly and learn a lot about the organic techniques he used. And that sort of struck a chord with me. And then meeting Christine at the same time, it all sort of fused together. I think that's where it came from.
And the vegetarianism started around that time as well?
Yeah, around that sort of time. It happened by accident, really. I got ill with gallstones and I actually passed them somehow. And it's really painful. And the doctor friend of mine said I should consider a vegetarian diet because our family are from India, Anglo-Indian family, so we used to eat a lot of animal stuff, a lot of animal fats and dairy and sweets, sugar, so all the wrong things, So it's no wonder I got this gallstone trouble. So I tried a vegetarian diet and I'd already passed the stones, which was the painful bit. But then after that, going vegetarian just felt a whole lot better. Still ate cheese and eggs and milk and stuff. So it was a long time before I became vegan. But going vegetarian then was more for health reasons than for any compassionate reasons.
And then when did you make the change to being vegan?
That was 3.5 years ago. In a funny sort of way, we were already close to being vegan. We'd sort of cut down on, again, for health reasons, on dairy and eggs and stuff. There were already 3 vegans in the family. My stepdaughter, Christine's daughter, Joanna, and her 2 boys are all vegan. And then another grandson from her other daughter, Stephanie, he decided to go vegan at the age of 12. And that sort of brought us all up with a start. I thought, well, he's obviously given it a lot of thought. So some of the family decided to go vegan to support him. And then Christine and I thought about it and we thought, give it a try. Again, not for compassionate reasons. It just seemed to be, for health. And I mean, we were obviously mindful of animals. So, that's what forced us in that direction. But I say forced, it wasn't a forcing thing at all.
You seem to have done it for health reasons, which is a lot of, I think, people's motivation. Did you come to the animal rights part of it or after turning vegan? Yeah.
So I became vegan and it was actually easier than I thought it was going to be. I didn't miss eggs, didn't miss cheese, didn't miss butter at all. So what happened was that I was sent some links to watch. The film called Earthlings. There's also another one called Cowspiracy and Forks Over Knives. That was the other film. But I watched Earthlings, which is from the animal's point of view, and that freaked me out completely. I just couldn't cope with it. There's so much violence. It actually did me in for about a month or 2. I couldn't function very well, which is a bit strange. It was the first time I'd actually considered it from the animal's point of view, so it was quite a shock. And I think if a lot of people do end up becoming active after seeing that sort of footage, but most of us don't want to see it. That's the real issue.
I know. Well, I don't watch it. I can't.
No.
I'm not brave enough.
No. But have you seen any of it at all? No.
I just went vegan without. I see enough things pop up on my social media to horrify me. That I just can't face anymore. I'm just not strong enough. I know you face it head on. And
I know it can. If you're not careful, it can really mess you up. But I see it. I don't see it as regularly as I used to because I'm mindful of my mental health. Because it did actually affect me quite badly. I personally need to see some of it sometimes just to keep me fueled in terms of the activism, because it's easy to just push it away and sweep under the carpet and pretend it's not happening. But it's happening every second of every single day. Millions and millions, billions of animals being killed needlessly. So it's quite a tricky subject, and people really don't want to see it and actually think ill of you if you try and suggest that they do watch these things. And the reaction on social media is quite interesting as well. But lately, though, people have, when I first started sending this stuff out, people, I think, thought I'd gone mad. Well, I had gone mad in a funny sort of way. Now I'm getting a lot more positive feedback, people who have actually made the attempt to watch some of this themselves and say, well, he's not mad after all. It's like, this is really going on and it should be stopped. Even after that Hortus Loci lecture, I went to an animal slaughterhouse yesterday as a protest, and I heard through someone else that one of the members of the audience at that Hortus Loci lecture actually went to their first vigil that the Guildford saved the other day. So that was great. That's a good result.
Yeah.
And he's a landscaper, so that's good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think when you started tweeting stuff out, I was already vegetarian, tipping towards veganism. And I suppose I was quite shocked because I think your career and your personal beliefs were always separate in a way. It's quite difficult to go on social media as your professional self and then speak out about something that's really your personal beliefs. And that's what I think a lot of people find difficult. You can quietly be vegan, but when it rubs up against your professional life, that's when you're more vulnerable, or you feel vulnerable. Have you had any backlash, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of people question the wisdom of doing this, sort of coming out, as it were. But it's my brother I've got to thank. You know, I was in a quandary about how to go about daily work, and then also trying to promote animal rights. And he said, don't be ashamed of it. It's something noble you should do. And the truth has to come out. He's vegan, by the way. And he said, just be honest about it. There's no point in trying to divorce the two and try and live a false life. Just be honest about it, and people can take it or leave it. And a lot of people have left it, and some people I don't speak to very much these days. But equally, some people have embraced it, and I've met a lot of new people as well. But the thing that's made me do it more than anything else is the fact, if it had just been about animal rights, I would have still protested about it. But because it links so strongly with the environment and health issues, you could go vegan for any one of three reasons. 1, for the animals, 2, for the environment, 3, for personal health. When you've got all three of those really important issues together, it's just a no-brainer for me. So with the environment and health reasons on top of everything else, you know, I've got to keep speaking up about it. And I don't care if I don't work again. You know, in fact, it would give me more time to do activism, to be quite honest, because that's the tricky part, is finding the time to do the activism in between work.
I think everyone's got their Achilles heel. For some people, it is the financial side. For some people, they don't like to feel that they're going to be ridiculed.
Yeah.
But it is something, I think that it's so intertwined probably with what we do as a career, that you can't really be off of bringing it to your professional work. So does it feed into your design work? Are you deliberately kind of avoiding work where you think that it's going to compromise your beliefs?
That's a good question, actually. Lately, I've been sort of with various projects. If there's something where there's a lot of disruption for no good reason, then I probably will either try and put them off doing that or walk away from the job. I prefer to try and work with people and try and steer them in the right direction. I haven't really had a good, strong example of that just yet, because every job you do involves some sort of disruption in the landscape industry. But lately I'm thinking more along the lines of trying to... I like this idea of nature taking back over, and at our allotment, for an example, we've always been mindful of the limited time we have down there. I get my knickers in the right old twist about the amount of weeds growing up, but since becoming vegan, I'm not so worried about it anymore. I can see the value of weeds, and I can see the value of the wildlife inhabiting those weeds. And I mean, it doesn't mean to say that everything's fine and rosy down there. I still get bit flustered if we can't grow things as well as we could normally. But there is a change going on in my brain about how we manage land, and wild spaces are just as good as cultivated spaces. So how that's going to affect work is going to depend on the clients I get, basically. If I get a client that really wants something really neat and tidy, it's probably not going to be so good for me in terms of being able to express myself. But there are lots of interesting dilemmas creeping up. I can't give you an honest answer of how I'm going to navigate them. I think it's going to be on the spur of the moment thing, and try and find clients that are like-minded. The last couple of years, I've had some really good clients and very sympathetic to vegan issues. Not that I actually go in there storming with vegan badges and propaganda right from the word go, but people do sort of pick up on the fact that I'm vegan through either social media or through what someone else has said, and they might start asking questions. And I've had some really good conversations with people. Many people open to it, and you know, there's probably about 3 clients I know who I think will be vegan. They don't know who they are yet. I'm sure they will at some point, because they're really sensitive people, sensitive to the environment, and they've got all the values that I've got. It's just taking that final step and looking into that black pit of horror, which no one wants to take the lid off. But I suppose one of the main reasons why I really am quite vocal about veganism in the gardening world is that I think gardeners should be at the vanguard of this movement, seeing as it affects the environment so much. You know, with all the emissions that exceed all transportation just from animal agriculture.